Hello and welcome to the Pens and Pixels podcast. I'm your host, Cal G. And to my left is the coordinator extraordinaire,
Mike Kent.
The podcast is the place to come to if you want to hear about the art and news of video games, comics, and movies that week.
And I'll make a line for the second part soon.
You got a whole week in Mexico to think about it, so I expect you to have a catchphrase by the time you get back.
And it'll be a Mexican catchphrase.
Andale.
Arriba.
So in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be going down the newsy news you need to know, as per usual. Mm-hmm. In the second segment, we're going to be talking about art blocks.
Art block.
And how to get over that shit.
Art advice on art block.
Yeah. It's the art block segment on art blocks.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the different things that end up blocking you, stopping you, not letting that creative stuff flow, and how we usually deal with them or fail at doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
and
do.
just things that discourage us as well, you know. Mm-hmm. So you know, like you're human, and other people have to, struggle with the same sort of shit.
It's helpful. I always like hearing when like you watch your favorite artist, and they're like, "I painted this in 20 minutes," and you're like, "I hate you," and they come back later on and go, "And it took me 20 hours to make that because I spent 20 hours failing." And you're like, oh, good, you're human.
Exactly. I feel like it's almost like the artist version of the regular person thing. Yeah. When you see in a magazine and you're like, oh my god, Angelina Jolie washes her clothes? You know, she gets Starbucks and it's like, just like us. And you're like, you know, it's just something you never think about it, but it makes people feel more connected to them when they...
I think it's a little bit more affecting for an artist in that sense, because for an artist, I mean, like, for us, yeah, you're like, oh, look at that unattainable beauty, I'll never look that good. Mm. Without some serious work, probably will never look like Angelina Jolie.
No, but just the fact that she gets Starbucks, you know, I think that's enough for a lot of people.
It's a small little humanizing, but for an artist, right, you watch this artist do this thing that requires all this training and skill and talent and creativity, and you're just like, that's such a huge mountain to overcome. And it's so high up, and you're like, what the fuck? And then like they make a mistake, and you see them use the eraser tool in Photoshop, and you're like, yes! Yes, you did! You used Control-Z!
You garbage! You're just like me!
You make mistakes.
So is there any housekeeping for Pens and Pixels?
No, just again, reminder, CGX is coming up for April 1st, and Cal and I will be there, along with now 19 other artists.
Ooh.
Maybe 20. So yeah, come on out and check us out at the Capital Game Expo, April 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, do that. Mm-hmm. Now, on to the news. Mike, we have several stories this week.
You do.
First up, X-Force movie will feature Deadpool and Cable.
This is... Wait, sorry. What X-Force is going to have?
Yeah, X-Force is going to have Deadpool and Cable.
So they're just making two movies, basically.
Yeah. I mean...
Because, like, the next movie is Deadpool and Cable. And then it's going to be like, alright, so it's Deadpool and Cable, and then it's going to be Cable and Deadpool.
Basically, yeah. With some, like, background characters, you know.
Yeah, they're going to jump in and be like, I'm on the team!
I mean, I get it. Deadpool's popular. They're going to want to put him in everything now. Mm-hmm. Just like the comics have been doing for the last 10 years, you know? When they realized that Deadpool was popular, they started shoving him in all these different series and shit. But yeah, and like, I mean, Cable was part of X-Force, and it makes sense that he's there. I guess Deadpool's kind of the more weird one, even though he was also in X-Force. But I feel like it's just going to be like...
Just a
Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, that's totally fine, but, you know...
No,
for the hardcore X-Force fans out there, I imagine you might be a little bit like, oh...
Yeah, the few hardcore X-Force fans out there. But Cable's always the leader of X-Force for like ever, at least as far as I remember. But yeah,
as far as I'm remembering too, yeah. Okay. He was always on the covers that I had.
Yeah, it was basically the Cable show with Team, and then there was the Cable solo show. But yeah, like, I mean, how much of Deadpool is going to be in X-Force though? That's the question. Like, is it going to be Cable and Deadpool?
I bet quite a bit.
Yeah,
I bet a good. Maybe not, you know, maybe not the whole movie, but, like, I bet a good, like, half is going to have Deadpool featured doing wacky antics.
He better, like, hardcore flirt with Cable throughout all of these movies.
Oh, yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, that probably will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, because
I don't want, like, undertone, like, I'm just, like, telling you I want to suck your dick in humor. I want to be, like, you know, like, I seriously want to suck your dick joke. You know, like...
I'm willing to deep throat, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I think my favorite Deadpool run actually ever was Cable and Deadpool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I liked Deadpool, you know, when I was a kid and I saw him make appearances and stuff, but it wasn't until that comic where I really truly appreciated Deadpool. That was only early 2000s, I think, you know.
Well, that was it? Was that the point where he actually started? Not because like after that he started hitting into the chimichanga phase, but that was when he was doing the fourth wall comedy, dark humor
Yeah, I think that was honestly my favorite version of Deadpool, when he was like wacky but still kind of serious. Like he was the right mix of both.
He was like still unhinged and crazy, merc killer, but also now with a mouth. Because before all of that, he had no mouth. He was just...
No, he did. It just was he was even more way toned back. He was more like a lot more sarcastic, and he'd break the fourth wall and shit.
Yeah, but it was never like outright jokes. Because like I remember when I first fell in love with Deadpool was like way fucking back in the 90s when he first started showing up, and his jokes weren't ever really jokes towards anyone.
No, it was a lot more. It was, I would say, dry and sarcastic, and it was a little more like he was mouthy, but he wasn't like. He's a lot more like lol random now. Like he just does shit that I'm like, this is entertaining to probably like a 12-year-old.
Yeah. But the Cable Deadpool was the prime time of.
I think that was like the perfect mix and balance of like each side of Deadpool.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I thought. So this, like I get why they would want to focus in on the two of them with that, and I want that to totally be the case. It does just seem like though they're going to be like, and Deadpool is in Cable. They're making Deadpool 3, and they're just like. This is the fastest way we can get to making the next movie without like having to cast a whole new cast for Deadpool 3.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna see a lot more Deadpool in the coming years.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the evolution of the new X-Men universe, right? Because the next X-Men movie is the last one, as they've been saying, and then.
No, it might be a trilogy, Mike. Remember?
No, it's not. They came back. It's supposed to be the last one.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw. It was. Oh God, what interview was it? It was an interview with one of the directors, and. They were all talking about the future of the X-Men stuff, and they were like, yeah, this is, like, there's one more film. And then the actors backed that up, and I thought that was just a rumor, and I thought it was because they said they were going to make the other 3. And then the actors from Logan, all of them were like, yeah, there's just the next X-Men movie, and then that's it.
So they're just going to do the Phoenix saga in one movie?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound great.
Yeah, so they're doing, like, one last hurrah, which, you know what's probably going to be with the Phoenix saga, she's just going to wipe out reality so they can have a fresh start.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, actually, it says here that we're working hard on New Mutants, Gambit with Channing Tatum.
That's never fucking happening.
That's not happening.
No.
Deadpool 2 and the new X-Force movie where Deadpool is alongside Cable and other main characters. There are no other main characters.
But yeah, like they're gonna start expanding themselves, and they've always said that their focus now is going to be on the other side content. So it's going to be the New Mutants, the Legion, the TV series, etc. Right?
Yeah. And speaking of Logan. Hugh Jackman is going to get to have a word in who replaces him as Wolverine.
What does that even mean?
I mean, it just means he gets a say as to who's being cast, you know. What if they try to cast Channing Tatum as the next Wolverine? I think Hugh Jackman can come in and be like, blackball that idea, you know? Put the kibosh on that one. That's not happening.
I want them to literally give him like a bowl with a bunch of black balls and be like, you get 3.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Like that episode in Frasier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's just kind of a nice, like, courtesy to him because he's played the character for so long. You know, to be like, okay, you get a say in your replacement. We're not just going to hire Zac Efron to be Wolverine.
Yeah, because they would. God, I don't even know. That's the thing. Everyone's rolling in their head who would be the next Wolverine. And as Hugh Jackman can't be the only option. Like there has to be a replacement, and he couldn't play it forever.
I really hope it's just gonna be an unknown.
An unknown.
Know? Yeah, so someone that we're like, when we see him, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's a Harry Bush man. Like that is totally Wolverine. Yeah. No one I can think of right now is like immediately.
Jason Momoa actually would have been good.
Yeah, kind of. He's super big.
He is big.
You know, Wolverine's supposed to be like a short, stocky guy, but
Hugh Jackman's not exactly short though. He's a tall man. He's a very tall man.
Yeah, If we could just hack Hugh Jackman's shins off a little bit, get him a little bit tinier, maybe we could get him around for another 5 years because he could have no more other roles. Hugh, you're too short.
You can just do some cosmetic surgery.
We wanted you in this romantic comedy, but nah, no one's gonna believe it. Next up is Marvel's Iron Fist on Netflix. The early reviews are in, and they are not good.
Not good at all.
Really surprising. You know, I've seen this being quoted as like Marvel's first, Marvel and Netflix's first misstep. Boring. Like,
boring.
You know.
Now the racism side of it, I just like, again, this is literally the source material, so don't go after whether the fact Danny Rand is a white guy. Like he was always. This rich...
I mean, it doesn't mean the source material can't now be outdated and a little racist, right? Like it doesn't mean that that's the case, but it's
no. But this is not. It was never even designed around that. Like it's supposed to be about this rich white kid whose parents die, and then he gets trained to become the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, Fucking Batman was trained by Asians. Is that he should have been Asian too? Like,
but he didn't become better at it than him. Actually, he did.
He did.
He totally did.
And he totally took over the whole clan.
Yeah, why don't people complain about Batman?
Yeah.
Is there some part of this argument I'm not getting? Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the racist stuff. I was never that concerned about it. But I always feel like they're almost with these origin stories because they are so old and a little outdated. Mm-hmm. They're same with Doctor Strange. They're between a rock and a hard space. You know, you change the origin too much, fucking people are outraged. You stick to the origin, people are fucking outraged. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no winning almost. It's Doctor Strange. If they got an old Asian man to play the wise one, people would be like, that's a fucking stereotype and that's terrible and So they did the best. They made their best call, but
that's the thing. Tilda Swinton pulled it off, and they always find ways.
No, but then they're whitewashing the fucking thing, and more Asian actors need to work, and I do believe that. I think more Asians do need work in here, but then it goes back to the thing. Okay, you cast an Asian and a stereotype. Cast a white woman, whitewashing. Yeah. Changes origin completely.
Not
the Marvel fans bomb the United States. It's just not gonna.
No, there really isn't any winning with that side of it, but. I think it's this. I've seen bad Netflix shows. Like, what's the fucking stupid one with the werewolf and the vampire? And
the werewolf one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, what's it called?
Piece of shit. Creek.
No, it's not Creek. I'm gonna look it up 1 second.
What the fuck is it called? Oh god, and it's like whiny teenage vampires stuff with werewolf hit gypsy.
Hemlock Grove.
Hemlock Grove, that's it. That's a bad show, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Mm. It's not fucking, I don't know. Let's try and think.
I know, you for some reason powered through that series. I don't understand.
I was drawing and I think to put it on the background.
Yeah.
It's not like trying to make excuses for Babylon 5. That's a good example. That was a hokey sci-fi TV show in the 90s. And
sure. Yeah, I'm wondering is this considered bad in the context of the Marvel Netflix show, so it's going to be a good show, but... Mm-hmm.
But 14% and being so royally but the other part too is that they keep flashing all this action sequence stuff with it and all that, and they're it's really boring. Is maybe the actor, the main guy, really just not enticing? Because that's the big thing, right? All of the Marvel Netflix shows made the main character, actor, whoever they had, really made it enticing.
Yeah. Well, another thing I saw was it's a lot of. They said it's a lot of millionaires sneering in buildings, talking about their plan to do this or that, and that's. Basically it.
This could also be that the ratings based on the combination of our boredom. So Marvel Netflix Daredevil comes out, we're all holy shit, I can't believe this finally happened. Marvel Daredevil Netflix 2 comes out, we're great, thank you for some more. Right? Jessica Jones comes out, because it tackled such dark, interesting material, we were okay, we can let this very slow show slide, right? But we're we don't need any more of this. This is starting to get repetitive. Luke Cage comes out, pretty temperate reaction.
Yeah, I saw people enjoying it, but just not to the degree.
No, they weren't blowing their heads, over the whole thing. And by the end of Luke Cage, I myself was I cannot watch another Netflix show that's just dark and boring and slow and a build up, and eventually he learns his ways and that's it. Maybe this is that combination, whereas again, it's another 12 episodes of. Because the other shows were people standing around and plotting, and then culminating to the 12th episode being guess what? To be continued.
Finally, he uses his Iron Fist in the 12th episode.
Yeah.
It finally glows.
Yeah. So, it could just be that this is the combination of us being
tired of the formula type thing.
No more Netflix formula. We can't do it again. We just can't do it for 12 episodes again.
It could be, but 14% is so fucking low that it's
so low.
It's shocking. And it's universally just been, panned that I've seen, so it's.
I want it to be really fucking bad though. I want it to be so bad just because of ludicrous things. He actually starts iron fisting people.
No, that'd be great. That'd be
14% for sure, but I'd watch that.
No, you hear about that again. The quotes I'm hearing are boring. It just isn't. Yeah, it's still a lot of faith. I'm still gonna try it out. To be fair, I only tried out one episode of Luke Cage before just completely not being interested in it and turning it off. So
I'm gonna give it a spin, but again, if no one gets iron fisted, then.
Gotta get that
just the glowing.
Their fucking colon just starts glowing. They're like a fucking lightning bug. What are they called? Glow bugs?
Glow bugs.
No, wait. Fireflies. That's what it's called.
Glow bugs.
Glow bugs. I think people call them that too. Light bugs. Alright. We're already into the gaming news. No, we're not. Wait. I fucked this all up.
We are into still movie news.
Still movie news. Disregard. Jason Momoa is set to star in a Just Cause movie. Oh, I see why I had that one there. Okay, well, fuck this whole thing up. That's fine. Don't worry about it. All right.
You screwed his segues up, people.
This is like one of the more baffling movies I've ever seen. I understand that like at some point probably every franchise and license is bought up for movie rights, you know, just in case people just buy them. But Just Cause it's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's just like war on like Brazil.
And it's literally Just Cause.
Yes, it's
like,
Just Cause.
Why does this game exist? Just Cause. They titled it literally the answer to every question. What's your movie about? Just Cause.
Just Cause.
What's the game about? Just Cause.
Just Cause.
Why is the character's motivation? It's just Cause. You know, like, that's the answer to the whole thing.
Like, the story is never even, like, over the top enough in those movies to be, like, bombastically, like, oh my god, this is so ridiculous and crazy. It's just fairly generic, but the games themselves are fun because they're just giant open sandboxes that you can do a lot of shit with your grappling hook rope thing. So unless Jason Momoa is, like, you know, firing guns at canisters and then as soon as they take off, he's grapple hooking to them and then being in the sky and then he's firing down on people, this movie's good. I just can't see it being good.
But you can't even, like, fucking Fast and the Furious goof this out.
The one thing they have is the grappling hook. That's the whole. That's Just Cause. Oh, and a flying squirrel suit in the last one, I guess. But like, yeah. Aside from those two, so unless in every scene he's just fucking around with his grappling hook and
like even during the romantic scenes, he's just like constantly swirling around a pole, like a polo ball. I love you.
Yeah, like, unless it's something like that, it's just gonna be like straight trash. Does Jason Momoa? Why is he taking this? You know. I always considered him, not that I really have followed his career much. I know that he's been in some random indie movie that I heard was good. He was in Game of Thrones, which people like, and he's Aquaman, you know. I just kind of figured he had, like, good taste or, like, something.
Yeah.
This is, like, how did you get him for this, you know? Is this someone, like, pre-planning, like, oh, DC's in the shitter and they're, like, negotiating with him? They're like, Aquaman's gonna be bad, man. You need to get on with us with this Just Cause movie. It's a hot video game property. Your career's gonna go nowhere. You're the underwater man. He shows him a clip of like the 1970s, like DC Super Friends Aquaman cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, shit.
It's fucking Aquaman caught in one of those like pop can rings that he's just like wriggling.
He shows up to work the next day for filming Aquaman in the yellow and green suit, and he's like, "Isn't this what I'm supposed to be wearing?"
James Wan's just like, "Get out of that!
What are you doing?
The suit's CG. You just get the back in the green suit. God, you're dumb." Okay.
Did you see everyone freak out about Jason Momoa's Aquaman footage that they show of just him swimming?
No.
No?
What happened?
It was, I don't know where it came from, but someone filmed, because they had a portion of the film show at something, I forget what it was, and someone with a camera phone, I guess, filmed just a 10-second segment, and it's literally just Jason Momoa swimming in CG. No, not him, but like the CG swimming of him.
Oh.
And then he swims up to like something in the water. I think it's the Trident. And he just stops in front of it, and that's the whole scene. And everyone's like, "Dynamic new footage of Jason Momoa swimming." It's literally swimming, just like that. And the headline is of him swimming. Every headline, look at this footage of him swimming.
We're really reaching for news articles. I feel like these days, you know, it's fucking nothing.
It's nothing.
It's fucking nothing.
He swims up to a pole. Like,
I told you this earlier, but I want to complain about it publicly. There's a bunch of news stories this week with the new Saw movie, and the headlines are all like, "You'll never guess what Saw Legacy has been rated," and I'm like, "Oh shit! Is it like what's the really super adult one? 18A,
18A,
or whatever, the one that's like adults only type thing?" And it was like, "It's been rated R," and I was like, yeah, that's what you would have thought for a Saw movie. If it was any rating but R, it could have been like a headline. This Saw's rated G.
It's like, they just put a G for everyone to go in, and it's just like fucking Bambi.
What would a G-rated Saw look like?
The puppet would probably go make friends.
Yeah. Well, I think there still need to be killing. It would just need to be like really tame.
Yeah. Or it'd be like Pixar. It'd be like a sad story of a man dying of cancer and slowly making friends with a child.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, he sends him into Chuck E. Cheese, and the kid like dies in the ball pit because it's like infinite ball pit.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a game?
That got dark real fast. Everyone's like, "There's real adult tones to this film."
Yeah, like fucking.
It's really for everyone. You can enjoy this.
And why is Saw even coming back? Actually, you know what? Saw has been gone for longer than I thought it was. It's been like 7 years.
Yeah.
It really didn't seem like it was gone that long.
No, and they're bringing Jigsaw back. The guy who died of cancer 5 movies ago.
The synopsis is, right now, it says something like, there's a bunch of new, like, traps set around the city, which are very reminiscent of Jigsaw, so it could just be someone taking up the Jigsaw name or the heir. I don't think... Did they zombie him? At this point, just do it, I guess, right? Just fucking... He died in the third one. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the fucking riveting Saw double quadrilogy. What's 8 movies? A double quadrilogy is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. An octadrilogy?
Yeah, octadrilogy. There you go. We did it.
We got there. We Englished.
Yeah. So, did you like the Saw movies? Just out of curiosity,
The first one was cool.
First one's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, like when you first watch it, you were like, "Whoa, okay." But then after that, it was just shit.
I like the second one.
No.
And
the second one was with the girl that he sends out, and then she falls into like the pit of needles and shit.
Yeah, it's the pit of needles one.
Yeah.
That's what everyone seems to remember. I think that one's pretty good.
No, I thought that was dumb.
And the third one is like okay at best if you're really reaching, and then everyone after that was pretty much like I watched it and it was like I guess that was a kind of inventive idea for a trap. But the story just like it stretched itself so thin by that point you're just like okay.
But even the whole idea of going through these traps to try and like make people like push themselves past, right? Like the traps didn't seem like they were doing that. They were just like these traps just kill you, and you're like, what are they learning from this?
Mostly
At least
nothing.
even in the second one, the heroine girl falling into a pit of needles is like, here's your lesson. You shouldn't be a useless piece of shit.
Here's some symbolism way too much on the nose.
Yeah, but still, like, I mean, there's a point. At the
you want the needles? Take all the needles!
You like to eat donuts?
Yeah.
How about all the donuts in the world?
Yeah, it's exactly that. The thing that really ruined Saw for me in retrospect was when I learned that James Wan had only planned out one movie, and the Saw is built on like this intricate set of like mysteries and like, and I realized at some point like they'd just been making it up as they went.
Yeah. Like
2 was completely made up after 1, all the connections were made up, and like for some reason that kind of ruined it for me that it wasn't all one grand plan.
Yeah.
You know, even though some of the things worked, some of the things didn't. It just ruined it for me in retrospect, and I was like, oh, they didn't plan any of this. They didn't plan 2, they didn't plan 3, and then it got so popular that I think they planned like 4, 5, 6, 7. By that time, it's too late. Yeah. It's already garbage. So.
Well, we actually had a little spontaneous cow spooktacular corner.
Yeah, there you go. That's my opinion on the Saw films.
Yeah,
they're not great. Ridley Scott has 6 more Alien movies in him. Could start filming next year.
Fuck.
So let me read this before we start commenting on it. He in an interview with Yahoo Movies, he said that. If you really want a franchise, I can keep cranking it for another 6, the 79-year-old director
I can keep cranking it?
I'm not going to close it down again. No way. In fact, the script for the sequel to Alien Covenant is already written on the chance that Covenant succeeds and there's opportunities for more installments. You don't want a 2-year gap, so I'll be ready to go again next year.
Actually, I just read today that he just finished the next Alien script is done and approved.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Prometheus was a good starting block to raise the question of who made the titular xenomorph aliens and why. Alien Covenant, which will hit theaters on May 19th, is getting closer to who designed it and for what reason. So, okay, this is conspiracy theory as fuck. As you all know, if you've been listening for a long time, Mike and I are big proponents of Neil Blomkamp, the director of District 9, and his take on an Alien movie. That's something we really wanted to see.
That's what the fans want, all fans.
Yeah, I would say that's the general consensus.
Every single time this movie comes, everyone goes, I want it. Neil. It doesn't matter what dinner party I sit down to. It's like, is anyone going to see Alien Covenant? I wish I could see Neil Blomkamp's Alien 4. You know?
Yes, that, right?
Yeah.
But his phrasing when he says, I'm not going to close it down again, like, I'm not going to close it down again, no way. I can keep cranking for another 6. That's almost like, since he interrupted the production of Alien 4, like isn't that just a big fuck you to be like, I'm just going to keep pumping these motherfuckers out. You can never correct this.
He's just got like standing over top of Neil Blomkamp throwing scripts at him. You'll never get your right. You'll never get your chance.
You like that, bitch? You like that?
I can make aliens do whatever I want.
Yeah, like, does he just not want someone else to have, like, the weird part is he's doing prequels and Neil Blomkamp wants to do a sequel. He wants to have the final word on Alien and what they are and where they came from. He wants it to be his thing and not someone else's, you know?
Maybe, but that's the thing. Neil Blomkamp's story is more about finishing off Ripley's story, which is what we all want.
Yeah,
Everyone's sitting around right now going like, oh, this movie's connected to Ripley. Like, she's Ripley's mom. Now they've officially confirmed that's not the case. Ridley Scott's come out and said there's no relation to Ripley with these movies whatsoever.
Which I prefer.
Which I highly prefer. So everyone wants Ripley's story to properly end, and that's all Neil Blomkamp's actually aiming to do, because like he's was working with Sigourney Weaver to get that story told. and that's what we care about.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, Alien is important. The Xenomorph is an important creature,
Mm-hmm.
but Aliens was Ripley.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I just don't. Again, it's totally conspiracy theory. I don't know if Ridley Scott has a fucking dartboard of Neil Blomkamp on his wall, and he's just throwing it at him every day, like, fuck this piece of shit.
The reason why every single time you see an ad on Facebook for Alien, it's the picture of Ripley holding Newt, is because the movie was about her.
Yeah, it's that iconic. Yeah, exactly. It's that iconic moment. It's not a picture of the Xenomorph. No. It's not. Yeah.
We barely. And the most pictures of the Xenomorph are usually some artist rendering. It's not some shot of a guy in a rubber suit. Like, it was never. The monster was cool. It's one of the best aliens ever made.
I have 2 alien things on my desk right now.
He does. Yep. But those movies, at the end of the day, are only cool because of the character of Ripley. You know, like, she made everything work. Even being a wuss in the first one, I'm afraid. But even then, she wasn't a wuss. She was
not even being sure she was the main character until the end of the first one.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, she was off on the side. Was she going to take over? And the second one becoming one of the best female characters ever created.
And I don't know Ridley Scott's whole career. Like, I don't know what he was thinking the entire time. But isn't it weird to you that, like, he did the first one, then he didn't... It was James Cameron who did the second one.
He already handed it off.
Yeah, like, he already let other people take over. And, like, then there was 3, and then there was Resurrection, and then, like, nothing for a while, and there's AVP and AVP2, and those were garbage. But, like, he just didn't seem to care anymore. He was doing Gladiator and doing his own thing, and
now
why now has he come back and been like, oh yeah, Prometheus, that was good.
Maybe he's like looking at these cinematic universes and being like, I have to be the next fucking what's our big guy for MCU?
Oh, Kevin Feige.
Kevin Feige. He's like, I want to be Kevin Feige. Like, I'm the alien Kevin Feige.
Scott, you're 79. You've done a lot. You have a history of your name. You don't need to do any more. No, I do.
You're a household name, for God's sake.
Yeah, people know Ridley Scott is. Again, just it's strange to me that after all this time, he's like, I'm back. I'm doing this. Yeah.
But my last point is a comment I made before the podcast and on Instagram was 6 fucking movies. Like, this will turn into fucking Stephen King and The Lamp. Like, the alien won't be scary after 6 movies.
Yeah, but that's also...
What? They're going to keep supering up the alien? This alien's more super. It bred with a fucking dino.
No, but I mean, like, just like the first one was horror and the second one was action, you know, like, they can switch it up and... It doesn't necessarily have to be every one of these is a like stark horror movie.
No, but it's not going to be special anymore. The alien will just become like, there's another egg, there's another facehugger, there's another xenomorph.
Yeah, it'll be hard to do the impact of like an egg opening again, and in the second version.
And then also after 6 episodes of this thing spreading, at this point, someone has sent a communication going, by the way, these exist. Like, please don't stick your head in. And then it makes the entire first movie completely implausible that, like, for 6 movies, they've been killing humans.
And 6 is quite a few, yeah.
And they've been killing humans everywhere, and it's going to escalate. Whole planets of humans are going to drop, and then these guys are going to fly out there and be like, I've never heard of these eggs things. Like, it's just too many. Like, Ridley, you've got a max of 3 allowed.
Well, I think we might see these 6 alien movies before Avatar 2 ever drops, because James Cameron's just come out and said Avatar 2's 2018 release is unlikely. And for those listening to this in the future, in the past, it's 2017 as we say this, and he's already writing off next year.
Yeah. Well, he actually wrote off 2017 as the release, and then wrote off 2018 as the release, and now it's just indefinitely forever gone.
Well, 2018 is not happening. We haven't announced a film release date. What people have to understand is this is a cadence of releases. So we're not making Avatar 2. We're making Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's an epic undertaking. It's not unlike the 3 gorgeous damn laughs. So I know where I'm going to be for the next 8 years of my life. It's not an unreasonable time frame if you think about it. It took us 4.5 years to make one movie. Now we're making 4. We're full tilt boogie right now. That's a fucking great phrase. Good on you, James Cameron. This is my day job, and pretty soon we'll be 24/7. We're pretty well designed on all our creatures and sets. It's pretty exciting stuff. I wish I could share with the world. We have to preserve a certain amount of showmanship, and we're going to draw that curtain when the time is right.
I mean, it's a reasonable excuse to say that he's going to try and, like, literally churn them all out one after another like Star Wars, but
yeah,
the thing is
it's just it's already been so long.
How long can you push the Avatar craze? Like, as it is right now, it's notoriously become known as a really bad movie, even though you and I have both agreed it's not that bad. But the big thing last year was, remember when Avatar was like the #1 selling movie of all time for quite a few years until it recently got beaten. And I think, actually, maybe when it got dethroned, actually, I think people were coming out and saying, remember when that was the #1 movie, and can you even name a quote from that movie? And everyone was, like, just circle-jerking with the fact that you couldn't, like, fucking name a quote from the movie. Which I can't either. Awa heard you?
We're blue. We're blue. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's just fucking almost ridiculous to me. It's already been, like, what, 7 years? 6 years?
Yes.
And he's like, we're just gearing up now. Like, we've heard about it for ever since then.
What was he working on before this? Nothing.
He was underwater. He was just in a submarine.
That's right. He got
writing,
his own,
I guess.
He got his own submarine.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing. I'm not sure about anything.
It's like total like Beatles thing, like the Yellow Submarine. He's just down there riding in bubbles.
Yeah, like
brilliant idea.
He's just trying to he's just looking around, scanning the environment, like thinking about like what cats would look like underwater. Like I don't know what his fucking MO is. But it's also weird because you'd think you're shooting 4 movies at once, which is admirable. Is it all at once though? Like, are you not shooting them like somewhat in order? Like about you're shooting most of 2, and then maybe it could go get started being edited, and then you're starting on 3, and then or is it like again is the timeline all fucked up, and you need this set for 2, 4, and 5, but not like 3?
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting when these finally come out. It's gonna be like, was that worth the wait?
Can you imagine being eccentrically enough of a billionaire or a moneymaker where you're just like, I'm gonna live in a submarine?
Yeah.
Can you just imagine? Where you could just be that eccentric, where literally there wasn't any consequence to the thoughts of the matter. You're like, this is what I'll do.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? I'm sure there's other people that feel like that want to just be underwater all the time.
But have enough money to be like, I'm going to hook a bunch of balloons to a house and just go up, and then that's it.
What does he find so thrilling about like the underwater? Once you start getting really like too deep, there's not much going on.
Well, there's a shit ton. There's lots.
Okay,
of
not
things.
that you can see though.
No.
That's the thing. Like he must be at the point where he can see almost nothing, and he's like, fantastic.
Look at all that black.
Remember when I made Aliens? I wish I hadn't come down here with you for 4 months.
How long does it take to get out? 2 months. Fuck!
We went up here for 2 months. Yeah. Alright, next up is the gaming news, actually. Naughty Dog says another Uncharted game is unlikely. The studio has a lot of other ideas. I would say that Naughty Dog doing an Uncharted after this is unlikely. I would never say never, but we've got Last of Us Part 2 on our plates, and there's so much other stuff that we want to explore. We really love the franchise, but the studio has limited resources and lots of other ideas.
And you were saying last week, and you said it really clicked in my head, was, Naughty Dog, you're only a fan of Naughty Dog at the end of the day because of Last of Us.
Yep.
And it's true. Like, right now with Last of Us is what I click to. I'm not an Uncharted fan. I've played 3 of them, but, like, whatever. They were just... The mechanics played really well. 4 was one of the more moving games because Neil Blomkamp got on board, and it was a little bit more...
Neil Druckmann.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Neil Druckmann.
Blomkamp's the Alien Man.
Alien Man. And it got a little bit more humanized, which was nice. And that was it. Like, I don't sit back aching for Nathan Drake. So you're right. It's all about Last of Us. So I want to see...
I would say that we're unusual in that, though. There's a lot of people who have a lot of reverence for Nathan Drake and all those characters.
I think we are probably a smaller group than those who worship Uncharted. That's for sure.
For sure.
But... nevertheless, you're right. Like, at the end of the day, though, Naughty Dog right now is Uncharted and Last of Us. Mm-hmm. Like, I would love to see Neil Druckmann on another new thing. Because, like, I was so excited to see Last of Us 2. So excited. Like, beforehand, you remember I used to be like, no, never another Last of Us, just the one, never again. I saw that one, I'm like, I was wrong.
It's like me with Death Stranding, and I'm like, I don't want to see any more Death Stranding. And then something new comes out, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I needed that.
Pretty much. So, like, I would totally down with this Last of Us 2, but my argument still stands where I would love to see them on... I want to see...
another new thing.
Druckmann on a new thing. Does he have another Last of Us in him?
Yeah, right? Like, he's obviously a good writer, talented guy.
Yeah.
The interesting part is that, like, Naughty Dog before... The last generation was, they did fucking Crash Bandicoot. It was a whole different set of people then. Then they did Jak and Daxter, and then they started making Uncharted, and that was their first move into serious stuff. And then they made Uncharted 2, and that was really where they came into their own for a lot of people. And then I think that's around the time Neil Druckmann got hired. They were doing Last of Us, and they did Uncharted 3, and now they had to do Uncharted 4, and Neil Druckmann was on that too. But that was never his baby. Last of Us is like his baby, right? Like it's his little shining crown achievement.
Oh yeah, that's his creation.
And like Uncharted 4, as I'm sure it was great, like you said, and like he put his heart and soul into it, I'm sure. But like at the same time, it was like not his thing.
No.
To have another thing that was like his another baby. Like
well, another
little
egg to come from him, right? Because like you're right, Nathan or Uncharted read like a Neil Druckmann game in its cinematics, but didn't play like a Neil Druckmann game.
I believe it was Amy Hennig who was like in charge of it way before Uncharted 1
and
and 2.
you could tell the merge between the two, and it was more just like Druckmann putting in his little pieces to make it a little bit more like particular scenes, i.e. the like wife and husband scene in the very beginning, etc. Lots of stuff like that, which really did elevate the game a lot further. But you're right, like where does he have another one of those in him? And I highly doubt he doesn't.
Yeah.
So like I want to see him on other things. Okay, you guys like Uncharted out there. They were great games. They're not bad games. We don't dislike them. But don't you want another new thing? Especially now that we know they can actually come rather than sequels. We just got Horizon, and it turned out that a studio that has never done anything like that just was like, hey, by the way, all over all of us. And we're like, more.
It's true. And Naughty Dog has like earned being able to do what they want at this point. I'm sure Sony's like, yeah, you guys can do fucking whatever you want. Like, it's fine.
You have the money. Go do things.
Yeah, and they trust them too, right? That's
go live in a submarine.
Everything they've made is so high quality up until this point. Like, they're probably just like, yeah, you could make anything. It'd probably be great.
Yep.
Speaking of great things, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is really blowing people away.
Apparently.
It now has broken Metacritic's record for the most 10 out of 10s ever. It's only one above, it's 49 10 out of 10s over GTA 4 on Xbox 360, which was 48 10 out of 10s. But nevertheless, it's the new king. Yep. And that is cool. I mean, it's cool to see Nintendo on top again.
It's cool to see the Zelda come back.
Yeah, in this way. This is like their, Ocarina of Time 2 almost, Their coming to Jesus moment where they're like, they finally released a Zelda that was like as good as Ocarina of Time was at the time. Because they've been chasing that forever, right? Like,
Wind Waker to Majora's Mask.
And like that's the thing, like I love Majora's Mask. I really like Wind Waker. I didn't like any of them after that. But but they, those games were just, again, it was like Twilight Princess was just Ocarina of Time again kind of thing, and so was Skyward Sword. Actually, I heard it was worse. But now they've improved the formula. They got everyone's fucking undying love and support. Everyone is talking about this game. Everyone loves this fucking game. People think it's better than Horizon, which is blasphemy to me, but I have not played Zelda, for the record. This is just, it's kind of shocking. I did not think Zelda would go over this well.
I still don't know why.
Mike and I, again, I haven't watched like 6-hour chunks of gameplay or anything.
I've watched gameplay.
But yeah, I just still haven't seen anything where I was like, oh, ooh, that. It looks like a slightly worse version of like Horizon or Witcher, right? Like pared down a little bit. You can climb anything, I guess, is cool. But instead of, in The Witcher you get gold coins, in fucking Horizon you get scrap, but in Zelda, because you get rupees, people are like, ooh, nostalgia. I don't know what it is. Is it nostalgia? Like, I don't understand. If you literally love Zelda out there, I'd love for you to write it and like tell us. Like,
there's nothing in the scenes at all that has shown me and sold me as to why it's amazing. So, like, we've had people post up and be like, I turned it on this morning and it was so amazing, and I sat in a field of grass while the wind blew. And I'm like, you're just sitting on another green hill of 1,000 green hills watching grass move, which we've seen before. What's so cool? And then everyone's like, oh, and today I did this, and it's just another shot of a goblin camp. And I'm like, what?
I know, that's so many goblin camps.
None of your screenshots, like, people are sharing Horizon screenshots, and they're like, look at this, and it's a fucking, like, bird flying in the air while it's bombing something while you're doing a quadruple backflip and stabbing it in its wing, and then, like, it's this perfect screenshot of this gorgeous landscape, and I'm like, holy fuck, that's amazing. And then every single Zelda screen cap is just like, here's another tree.
Well, no, I'm seeing shit like, it's Link and there's a deer in the photo, and it's like, I wonder if I can mount this. And then the second picture's like, LMAO, I could mount the deer, and it has like 2,700 retweets, and I was like, why? Yeah. What is so cool about that? Again, I don't want to come off as negative Nancy. I'm glad everyone's enjoying it.
I'm glad this is a great. I want Zelda to be amazing, because there always should be amazing Zelda games out there.
Yeah, for sure.
I was a huge fan. It's just I have nothing shown to me about this game as me like, I've got to go play it.
One day I will play that game, and I will come back and report to you on what I actually think of it. Because I am going to get a Switch probably this year at some point, so I will play Zelda. I'll have to. But maybe I shouldn't get a Switch too soon, because there's apparently a lot of problems with them. Nintendo comments on the dock scratching, the Switch screens, the Joy-Con connectivity problems, and there's just a bunch of ridiculous shit being said about the Joy-Cons in particular. But for the docking, it's strange. They seem to be denying that it's happening, but there are people with screenshots that like are like, hey, when I put the dock in and I came back out, the side of the screen is scratched. Like, what are you gonna do about that? I'm surprised they haven't put any protection on the side of the screen. Is gonna
or made the screen like in like do the iPhone Sapphire or something like that, right? Like what the sapphire glass they use.
Oh, what are they? What's different?
It's basically made from sapphires.
Oh, yeah. Is it?
In a way. Yeah.
Wow.
iPhone 5 or 7S, sorry. Yeah, it's a very special scratch-proof glass. Why not just put that on there? And then at the same time, like, you think you would have stuck it in there at least once and been like, oh, look.
Yeah. Was there no like playtesting with these things? The Joy-Cons are apparently like, slipping out, not connecting right.
Yeah.
The actual connectivity of them isn't reaching the system.
Yeah,
all weird.
And it's a huge thing. So like the Joy-Con sticks themselves, like having the connection from them when you take them away and you leave it inside of its dock and to work on it like on the big screen. I mean, yeah, there's also apparently issues with frame rate and it not looking good on the like putting it on a TV as an actual console. So people are primarily
also baffling.
Yeah, which is also baffling. People are primarily saying I just end up playing it on the little small like mobile version of it because it doesn't work well with that. And then the stick itself or the Joy-Con stick itself also has like instructions on like, hey, I have connectivity issues, and some of them are fine, like don't leave it inside of a Faraday cage of its own wires, and don't stick it underneath metal or behind the TV and all that. But then the rest of the advice is like, make sure to turn off your laptop, your cell phone, any USB 3 device, any cordless phones, and the list goes on. Basically,
your microwave.
Yeah, your microwave. Like any device that generates electricity in your house, you have to turn off so this thing communicates correctly, so you can play a game. Did you not think to work in a world of like wireless speakers and wireless everything?
Yeah, like what year it is, right?
Yeah.
Like that's strange. I've seen some people having sentiment of like we're like the beta testers for this console type thing. Like we're working out all the bugs and they're gonna release a better Switch in like a year or something.
Yeah, they will. They totally will. But
that's like disheartening to learn.
But that's a horrible thing to do, and to me it feels more like this was always originally designed to be an overblown 3DS, and then they were like, let's make it a console as a secondary option.
That's what it seems like.
Because it works great apparently as its own little mobile self, but if you try and hook it up to your TV, you're scratching it, you have no connectivity, etc.
Yeah, and the performance is maybe worse.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. What are you doing, Nintendo? Making this great game and then making a system people can't play it on well?
Well, it's like I always said, they should just be developers because their development team does great work.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you the new Mario is going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, Square Enix wants to publish 10 indie games a year.
Which is a brilliant idea.
And they're publishing 7 in 2017.
I Am Setsuna was a great experiment, and I think it's going to turn out even better.
Well, that one is actually from a studio that's theirs. They own that one.
Yeah, but I mean, like, part of their whole indie, because I remember they made that promise is to use all of their studio resources and all their side studios to start releasing more content.
So what it says here is, from an interview with GameIndustry.biz and Square Enix Phil Elliott, Square Enix Collective has transformed from a Kickstarter marketing firm to a straight-up game publisher. For now, they're halting support for future Kickstarters in favor of publishing, but also want to support Kickstarters again in the future. So far, the games they've published directly are Goetia, and the Turing Test, but now they're ramping up dramatically, which is presumably why they're making it much more public and obvious that they're an indie publisher now. In 2017, they'll publish 7 indie games, and they'll ramp up to 10 a year as soon as possible. The budget range they're currently supporting is around $1 million, but they're going to ramp up to around $3 to $5 million by 2020. They advise indie developers to get quotes from at least 2 other publishers before choosing Square Enix, so they can help Square make sure they're offering the best publishing deals. And the first new game announcement of 2017 is Battalion 1944 from the developers of the Turing Test. And the games they're doing in 2017 are Children of the Zodiacs.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, me too. Battalion 1944, Black the Fall, Oh My Godheads, Fear Effect Sedna, Forgotten Anne, and Tokyo Dark. I haven't heard of most of those.
Those all sounds like Japanese names.
Yeah, very strange. Fear Effect Sedna was one of the Kickstarter ones they were talking about. It's like it was like almost like a fan-made Fear Effect, I think, and that's gonna be official because
Children of the Zodiac I've heard of before.
Yeah, me too. I've heard that name, and maybe it's just one that I heard once, and I was like, oh yeah, that's.
No, I think I've seen screen stuff of it before too. Like I think there's actual screen work for it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, cool.
It's like a RPG style kind of thing. Kind of what is it called? Tactics.
Yeah, tactics game. It's like a tactics game. I like tactics games.
Yeah, I'm down with this.
I wish there were more tactics games.
I wish there were more tactics games.
I fucking loved Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Advance 1 and 2.
Yeah. Not so much on the Tactics Advance, but I'm with you.
Oh yeah, you don't like Tactics Advance? Oh fucking,
No, I like them.
I played more of it than the original Tactics.
I like them a lot. They were very good games. I had them both, and I played them on like plane rides to Japan and shit. But they weren't quite as engrossing to me as the original Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, they're more engrossing to me.
But you know, one thing I really hope doesn't happen with this is that Square Enix just turns the studio around into making like their stupid little fucking side projects, because they're still releasing stupid side projects on a few things. Did you see the Final Fantasy 15 game they released? That's the story of the father, and it's just like a old school Nintendo slasher kind of thing.
Yeah, that was like a pre-order bonus for one of the things, and now they released it as a game.
Yeah, like just
that makes sense though. I mean, they made it right, and then it was 3 months after release for pre-order. They're like, fuck it, everyone can have it.
Yeah,
whatever. But that meant nothing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine. Seems like the Square Enix Collective seems like entirely like separate from.
It does seem like
Square Enix proper. So that's all cool. Good on you, Square. I like what you're doing. Next up, oh wow, this is totally out of fucking order. Why was I was so off the fucking ball today? Metal Gear could be the first great video game movie, says Kong Skull Island director. Fuck, this is supposed to be in the movie. I just saw Metal Gear in the title and moved the tab all the way to the end.
Well, you have 2 Metal Gear tabs there.
Yeah, they're both kind of the same thing. The first great video game movie needs to reconcile the fact that each game has its own language and elicits specific emotions from a player while investing an audience in compelling cinematic narrative rooted in character. Though many people are skeptical this can be done, the first great video game movie will silence naysayers in the same way the Lord of the Rings films completely redefined fantasy and reminded people that in film nothing stays unadaptable for long.
Yes, but then they fucked it up.
Didn't they fuck up The Hobbit though, not Lord of the Rings?
Well, they kind of fucked up the last last Lord of the Rings. So that's when Peter Jackson took to the end of the movie and was like, I don't like the ending. I'll make a new one. Gay hobbits. And that was it.
I mean, not to take your word for it. I've never seen them.
It literally is like, the ending of the actual books is like nothing, well, it's very dissimilar to what he actually ended up showing. And he turned the entire ending of the movie into a 25 to 35 minute long scene of like hobbits slowly hopping at each other and going, Sam, Frodo, oh,
that sounds fucking weird.
Happy. Like, it is. It's like, does that for like fucking ever. Lots of longing looks at each other.
So what does Metal Gear make you feel? What is the quiet tension of sneaking around? What is the dread you feel as you're going further and further from safety? What is the panic you feel when an alarm goes off? These are just the basic elements of the MGS formula, but finding a way to recreate those feelings on screen is crucial. Metal Gear, wait one second. Sony first announced it's moving ahead with this adaptation of Metal Gear Solid in 2014. It's been relatively quiet since then, but following the critical success of Kong Skull Island, this guy's name is Vought Roberts, V-O-G-T, Vought Roberts is ready to talk about it. He recently told Collider, Metal Gear is probably the most important franchise to me on the planet. It is such a genius, idiosyncratic work, and being able to spend time with Hideo Kojima recently has been like a dream. He's the best, and his whole team is the best. We're working on a script that is a property I'll fight tooth and nail to make sure it's done properly, because it's so easy to screw it up, and so easy for a studio to try and make it into G.I. Joe, or try to make it into Mission Impossible, or try to make it into something it's not. Okay, that's fine. You said or a lot there.
You know, how many stories like this have we read, though? We read stories where everyone's like, it's going to be good, don't worry, it's going to be good. All they're doing is trying to placate these Metal Gear Solid fans who are intense. Like, they make fucking, like...
This would be a bad one to screw up.
Yeah, they make the Sonic Baby fans, like, look like amateurs. So,
well,
like,
they're weird in a different way, though.
No, they are fervor. They're like, my lore is a fucking novel of perfection from Hideo Kojima, my lord and savior. Like, you know, the whole
yeah,
lore
they seem
thing
to refuse
is
to believe there's flaws in this like narrative that is full of flaws.
Full of flaws. So like, these are just all of them sitting back going, "Don't worry, guys, it's okay, it's okay."
And then he also commented on,
like, they're working the whole time with like red dots on their heads, like from the snipers outside, being like,
I think this guy's saying the right things though. And
did he write Revolver Ocelot or Revolver Ocelot? Lot.
Is that a typo? Yeah, but this guy's saying all the right things, and he seems to be a big fan of video games too, because he's talked about in Kong Skull Island how a big point of influence for him was Shadow of the Colossus, which is like that. Hey, that's great, right? Like, yeah. And Kong seems to be getting great reviews, so that's that. I mean, I have faith in this guy. I'm gonna hold hope that he makes a good Metal Gear movie, but I don't think it'll happen anytime soon.
No.
And he just commented on some characters that he wanted in there. He said, I'm a big Sniper Wolf fan. And when we're sitting down to think about the script, at a certain point, it was like, is Cyborg Ninja in this movie or not? And the part of me, this little kid, was like, there's no world in which I'm ever going to make a Metal Gear movie that Cyborg Ninja is not going to be in. But it's really easy to be like, it's a good character to save for the second one. But no. Psycho Mantis was mentioned. You know, all the good ones. Gray Fox, whatever. Anyways, yeah, I hope this guy can do it. Apparently Kong's real good, so.
I'm sure he'll do a fine job. It's not a question of that. It's just, like...
Well, if he does a fine job, he's made a good video game movie. He's done the impossible.
It's like the Last of Us movie. If that wasn't, like, literally just the game done in sequential order, exactly as the game was, people would have blown their lids. Or I would have.
Just that little bit of clarity. That's the kind of clarity you can expect in the next segment in the podcast where we start talking about our art blocks and how we get through them. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Pens and Pixels podcast, the second segment, wherein we talk about
art block. The block is the box.
Cock knock that art block.
There you go. So yeah, what we're going to be doing is discussing first what blocks art.
What blocks art?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. What blocks your creativity and what generates art block for you? The most common for either one of us first, and we can hit on other types after.
You mean like what causes my art block?
Yeah. And how recently, actually, that's a good one to start with more so, is how recently have you had art block where you just had no fucking ideas?
It's been a little while now because recently I've been doing a lot of fan art.
But even with fan art, like, so with art block, I've had enough art block where it's like, I look at it and be like, I should just do some fucking Zelda fan art. And I just can't even come up with anything more interesting than just drawing fucking Link, you know? And I'm like, that's boring. But have you noticed that art block has actually gotten less as you've gotten older? Yeah,
and I wonder if that's also a product of me having less time to dedicate to art, so the time I do have, I already know what I want to do because I've been thinking about it maybe more.
Well, maybe. I just feel like also maybe like, because, you know, we always used to talk about in school was like the visual library. Like, you'd have to sit back and look at 1,000 things, and then you'd have the visual library to reference and pull it up. Mm. But I spent so long now building that visual library that in my head I can pull out so many different things. But when I was younger...
You didn't have that reference.
I didn't have that reference library to pull from, being like, you know, I want to make an image that's dynamic, and I'd be like, oh, that image is that. And if I mix it with that one and that one and that one, whoa, you know. Like, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, no, it totally could be. As you get older,
I don't really get it as often. But if you do, how recently and what was it?
I can't remember the last, like, instance where I had it necessarily, but, like, I remember what I did do when I, you know, I would sit down, and I'd be all prepped to draw. Nothing in particular, and I just open a blank canvas and be like, start drawing like something, and it's like a fucking circle with a line through it, and you're just like, oh, this is already garbage, and you erase it, and then you like kind of start again, and you're like, no, this is garbage too. What I would do is I'd go back through a bunch of old PSDs I had, just half finished garbage where I'd open it up, and this one was like spacehair.psd, and I was like, what the fuck? And I open it, and it's just like a horrible like polygonal lasso thing with like a woman's hair and there's like a star in it. I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? So then I just try to keep exploring something that I've already kind of done at the time, and most of the time I end up not finishing that, but it sparks something, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, fuck this piece, and I go back to the blank canvas, and I can start there again. Well, and that kind of gets my juices going.
I actually have never once in my entire art career, this sounds arrogant and bad, but had the stare at a blank canvas syndrome. Never had that one. Like, every time I've ever opened it up, it's always... Like, I can't even get to opening it up with my art block, if that's the case. I need to have something energizing me to want to sit down and draw. If I have... So, like, I never even get to the blank canvas. I never get to...
I totally do. And even when sometimes it's the same thing where, like, I always draw zombie carrots when I'm a completely lack of anything. I draw zombie carrots, and I'll start drawing the zombie carrot, but, like, I'm like, this triangle shape just sucks. It sucks, and I just fucking keep erasing it, or, you know, doing whatever it is. Like, that's my like version of it, right? Like, where I'm like, technically I'm thinking of something, but it's like, just I think it's trash already, so I just keep doing it, and I've produced nothing in 15 minutes. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like I always have an idea. Like, I currently have 4 or 5 ideas that I want to execute. It's the sit down and do it, because whatever's in my head right now and whatever I draw, it might turn out like shit, and then I just don't want to draw anymore. That block is my worst block. Oh, so it's you getting to you drew the circle with line through it, and then you're like, oh, and you just like
you're like,
close the thing.
I'm like, I'm never gonna be good enough. Like, I'm just like, everything I draw is shit. There's no point in me even trying to finish this. I don't want to post this. I'm embarrassed. Like,
I feel like art block also lasted longer when I was younger too.
Lasted way longer.
You know what I mean? Like, which is weird because it's also the time when you have more time where you could like, I feel like persevere through it a little easier.
It lasted like weeks before, and I used to have to walk away and just forget that I even knew how to draw. But for me, like the biggest art block, the one I get most recently, and it was only a couple of weeks ago, is I'll sit down and I'll be like, I'm going to draw this picture of something, doesn't matter what it is, and then I'll start drawing it out, and I'm like, this idea is so cool, it's going to be so good when it's done. It looks like shit. I can't draw. How do they accomplish this? I'm going to look at a video. Nope. I don't get it. I don't know. Okay, fuck this shit. And just turn it off and like walk away. Like, and then that's it. Like, I can't draw for a week, so I'm like, fuck it. I'll never get good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't care if I teach it.
That can be, there's definitely stuff that's like demoralizing. Yeah. And it's like, you look at a piece or you look at a guy who like you stumble upon him on Instagram and you're like, oh, this guy's he's way too good. And you start to keep scrolling. You're like, holy fuck! And you're like, scroll back up to his top of his profile. He's like, I'm 19 years old. And you're like, what? When did you have the? How did you? Where did this come from?
How much do you lock yourself in your house to do this shit? You're like, do you not remember about drugs? Did you not have drugs? The kids don't have drugs anymore. Why are you off doing drugs?
Why are you being so fucking productive? It's infuriating.
Yes. That one I get a lot of the time. Do you ever get the one where you'll look at someone's art and you're like, oh wow, this is great. I can totally see how they did it. I can totally do that. You know, because like you totally break down their method or watch even a video of their method and you're like, oh, I could literally replicate that. You try and replicate it, it comes nothing close to what they're doing. And you're like, got the video open and you run the same 2 seconds and their brush goes left and you're like, all right, left. And then your left looks nothing like their left. It's just a single stroke. And you're like, why the fuck?
Yeah, it looks like a 4-year-old with Parkinson's did what you did. And you're like, why? Why is this happening to me? Absolutely all the time.
That shuts me down so fast. Like, what skill am I missing that they did to literally make a single line look cooler than my single line?
Yeah, and there's also, especially with painting, there's such a process to it where like it kind of looks like shit for like 2/3 of it, and like I end up not ever being able to persevere through that 2/3 because I'm like, I've already wasted 3 hours on this thing. It looks like garbage, and I start getting angrier and angrier like you, and I just end up closing it. And I'm like, fuck this. And like, even though I know that like I'm watching this person do it, but like they're doing it with such more confidence. Whereas like, you know, I'm like beginning trying to do it like well, and like this is probably like their 9,000th time doing it, and like I'm still like, fuck, and this is garbage. Like,
it's how to get past that gap too. A lot of the time, the stupidest part about it, the frustrating thing at the end of the day, is that you get into that point where you're like, I don't have the knowledge or skill or experience to do this, and you're like, what's the answer? And honestly, the only answer is
keep drawing.
Draw more.
Keep doing it more.
Which is like the worst fucking answer you could hear at that moment. Like, you just like, you gotta make shitty pictures for a long time. But that's how we even became able to draw in the first place. We drew like shitty 5-year-olds, and we just kept copying comic books and shit until we were 18 and realized that we could. And then now we have to like learn how to get real good. And like, it's basically the same thing of sitting around and just drawing all the time. And you're just like, you know, want to do it now.
Yeah, no, I guess it's just more frustrating now. They always say that this is a piece of advice that's always like struck me as like kind of wrong. It's not wrong, but it is. Like, they always say like, oh well, you have like 10. There's like, you have 10,000 bad drawings in you before you get a good one, or like you need to practice something for 10,000 hours before you get good. And that's only if you are like doing it right. You know what I mean? Already. And you need to like, because if you get in the bad habit of like, maybe you draw hands super fucked up and you know, the perspectives are terrible or the pinky is shitty or whatever it is, right? Like, that'll get even more ingrained in you if you're not already good enough to like
know how to correct your own
corrected work. It, you know, like your 10,000 hours is like, I could draw a really good torso, but like my hands are all I'm Rob Liefeld and I can't draw feet, you know, like that kind of thing. And it's just that, so that piece of advice has always been like kind of weird to me. It's not.
Well, it's a split, right? Like, there's a whole thing where people are like, oh, you know, you don't need school or education to learn how to draw. You can just teach yourself. And it's true. You can totally teach yourself.
I think so.
Yeah. But at the same time, like for me, I was trying to figure out how to paint, and when I sat down to try and learn how to paint, and I was just opening up all those videos and shit, I was just like, you're all speaking fucking Swahili, and whatever you are doing, you're like just generally assuming that I have some knowledge of painting and Photoshop that I don't have, I guess, or something, because you're like, and then I just did this, and you're like, but what was it that you just did? Like, no, like, and then they'll be like, oh, and then I made this layer and I did that, and that's how.
And then I was just amazing over here.
Yeah, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing differently? So I had to go to school to fill that in, because I needed a teacher to go, no, you're fucking up all this stuff, and it filled in all these rules where I'm like, oh.
The actual basic part of it before you just.
And that's part of the whole critique period, right? Like our classes were almost like 90% critique. It was just like, did you do the work? Put it up. Did it critique it? Is it good? No? Okay, go back and fix it.
Exactly, yeah.
That was really about like it. And that's a huge part of the block is like, what am I doing wrong? I can't fix what's wrong, but what do I do to get it fixed? And then that's the hardest part with block too, comes down to like knowledge base is you're going to try and go out there and be like, okay, someone tell me what's wrong with it. And either everyone around you is going to go, oh, you're amazing. And you're like, thank you. But that fucking doesn't help.
That's not great to hear all the time either.
And or you've got to pester someone who is a big artist out there to be like, can you please tell me what I'm doing wrong? And they get 2,000 of those and they're just like, fuck off, everyone.
No, why would I tell you? You're nobody.
No, not even just not even just that. They're just like, everyone asks, can you all shut up, please?
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to correct everyone's work on the planet.
I think that's a bad thing for an artist to hear all the time too, is that you're amazing. I'm sure if you are, especially, for me, I'm from a smaller town than Mike is, but I'm sure Mike got it all the time too, because he is a great artist. When, growing up, if you were the artist kid in your class, everyone's just constantly, as you're growing up, your parents telling you what a good artist you are, your fucking teachers, your fucking, all your schoolmates, are all like, oh my god, like,
the bar is so low too, because like all you have to do is be able to draw something that looks reasonably
like slightly competent, like, it's not actually good yet, but it's like, but everyone's telling you you're good, and then, if you get to, when you get to high school,
I could just draw a stick figure. That's as far as the bar is. And I'm like, well,
I'm better than that.
That's literally just after picking up crayons, I didn't put down the crayon. You put down the crayon. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's your bar.
It's true. And, that, I think that might be a bad thing to hear, because you do see, I want to say slightly delusional artists sometimes who are trying to charge, $90 for this piece of work, and it's, this pencil crayon drawing that's of, Kim Kardashian, and you're like, how the fuck? That's supposed to be Kim Kardashian? Also, who wants to buy a pencil crayon drawing of Kim Kardashian in the first place?
I'm more baffled at the amount of people, I know Pokemon is probably the biggest thing in the planet, that everyone wants to have a Pokemon of some kind, but that people's shitty Pokemon art sells like that. It's literally a copy of the original Charmander, just done in crayon. Why did you pay $10 for that?
Yeah, there was no slant to it at all. It's here you go.
Yeah.
There's just people who I think become delusional and caught up in their own. I don't know if they call it their artistic, way, and they're like, oh, there's an artist there. That's just what they're like. But it's you're actually kind of a shitty person, and you're not as good as you think you are, and you need to be taken down a peg.
But I mean, it's the same thing for webcomics. You look at some webcomics like Penny Arcade, PvP, Mega Tokyo. Some of those really big ones that went all the way to books and have their own fucking cons on every coast.
Yeah.
And their original work was as shitty as it comes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it was just them persevering and constantly doing it, and that's the break to that block, right? The break to being the I don't get criticism, all I get is accolades, and I just want to get better. I know I'm not doing better, right? How do I get better? Then you get stuck in that little syndrome, and the answer is either school or just keep doing it. Right?
Yeah.
And the keep doing it one is the hardest thing to get past. That's the biggest.
And again, it's also how you can get into bad habits. School would also help you correct things fucked up fists or perspectives on feet or whatever the fuck it is, right?
And I'll even say, I'm a post-secondary educator, and I'm big on people going to post-secondary education for arts education. I think it's the way to get into a professional level and get a job. But if you're in a situation where it just isn't acceptable for you, finding ways of getting that education, going to a life drawing class at your local community center is good enough. Just something where you're not at home drawing by yourself. That is a big one. That's a good way of breaking that block.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And that's a good part to get into after that. Is so we've covered, the natural, just drawing a blank, right? We've covered the inexperience, right? But is there anything else that's ever just stopped you dead in the middle of a picture? That's a block?
In the middle of a picture?
Yeah. Because I've had that a few times.
Yeah, but most of the instances are when I was younger, and I was trying to draw. I remember the picture specifically. It was a giant mutant pear tearing through a city. It had spider legs. And
that sounds like one of your pieces.
It was a pear, yeah, it was a pear with it was a cyclops pear.
This sounds a lot weirder over air than you think, but if you go check out Kyle's Instagram, it'll make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit I draw. It's not like that's like, oh, typical Kyle shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're not surprised at all.
This is not like him going like, I have this really fucked up idea. It's just his idea.
It was literally, again, it was like an art block thing where I was like, here's a monster fruit. I don't know why I keep going to like, it's a zombie vegetable. It's a fucking pear.
Your monster animal or food in general.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Did you do a monster pizza? And...
Yeah, exactly. I did a monster pizza. Yeah. Yeah, if I monsterize food, that's like, you know that like that day I was like, I have nothing going on up here.
A pumpkin.
Pumpkins just look cool. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The pumpkins have other relevance. But yeah, I remember drawing it specifically, and I had like not prepared correctly for the drawing, and it was like I'd drawn the pear first and really loosely outlined where the buildings were going to be, but the perspective was so fucked up that when I tried to actually implement lines afterwards, it was just like I was just like, fuck, like, and then it ruined me, and then but I would always keep flipping back to it, like, I really want to finish it, like, oh, no, whatever, I just kept going.
I have that exact piece happening right now. So a piece I had that I've actually taken down off of all social media was I wanted to do this Final Fantasy 15 fan art piece of, I drew this amazing environment with this road that was whipping around a mountain, and I wanted to put the regalia and all four guys in the car driving and then like waving as like Leviathan like swooped by. I drew Leviathan like such shit, and in such a...
Mike's exaggerating, it was not such shit.
So fucking
ugly. It was probably below his standard, but it was a pretty good Leviathan.
It's ugly as fuck.
There was like, I don't even remember what it was, but there was one thing that I was like, that could be better, but like, it was pretty good.
No. Anyways, it was bothering me so much how shitty it was and how like...
I hope they're just picturing like a really immaculately painted piece, but then the Leviathan's like a fucking like bright red saturated crayon, like a squiggle line, he's a little snake with like...
It's just Trogdor
coming out. Yeah, he's like Trogdor. And you're like, oh god, I just ran out of it. I
had nothing left.
I put all of my art into this and I ran out. I guess this is it.
Pretty much. That's what it looks like to me. But I couldn't stand the Leviathan in it, so I wiped him out. And I have worked on this piece, and I decided I was going to make chocobos, running next to the car in the fields next to them. But I ran into the problem with that. The field I had done is like this... late fall dried out yellow grass, and they're yellow birds, so I was like, fuck, how do I draw a yellow bird in yellow grass? Right? Like, how does that
still
work?
Make them like actually stick out and have a silhouette and like look, not just blend in like a fucking smudge.
So I started working on that. Ryan Lang actually gave me some like personal advice, which was amazing of him too, how to fix that stuff up, and it was starting to work. And then as I was painting them, I'm like Jesus Christ, these birds are like 6 stories tall. Luckily I'm in Photoshop, so I was shrinking them down. I'm like, now that they're shrunk down the appropriate size, they're like the size of a shrub in the distance. They don't look like anything. And then I'm like, wait, they're all running the wrong fucking direction. They're not the right perspective. I'm like, because I constructed the image around the car and the Leviathan, sticking these fucking birds in now is just...
I hate...
And it's sitting there with these blobs of birds that I've redrawn several times, fucking chocobos, and I'm trying to get them to fit in, and I'm like, this is not... And I want this to work, because now that I put the chocobos in, I know I'm seeing like their placement, and I'm like, this is gonna look fucking great, but I've got to get these fucking birds looking amazing, and I'm over rendering them now, so they're looking like highly rendered next to this rough painted style entire picture. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, no.
Now I gotta go back and wipe them out and basically draw them shittier so they merge in better.
I fucking hate. It's one of my. I almost never do it now because it's just such a like peeve of mine is like going back to something that I fucked up like that where I'm gonna change something or whatever. I usually go back and like I try it for maybe like half hour tops, and if I can't get it working, I just abandon the thing entirely.
Yeah, and that block, it drives me insane because I know this piece could be good, and you see artists sometimes like they'll have a piece and they're like, oh, I went back and fixed it, and you're like, what? You totally solved it. You knew the
for some reason it's harder for me to like keep doing something that I've already been invested in for like 16 hours or whatever it is, right? Like it's harder for me to go back and change an element of it than restarting a new piece for some reason, or like redrawing the entire thing, would almost be easier than...
A lot of people say it's better to move on to the new piece rather than trying to go back and hammer, because like if you hammer on one piece for too long, eventually you're just going to make it shittier and shittier.
Yeah, you're polishing a turd almost at that point, right?
It's just time to like realize that the image is never going to work, and it's time to do something different.
Yeah, it's one of those frustrating things to me, and I've always not liked it. And so it's always bothered me. I'd rather start something new with the thing. I fucked that up, I've learned from it, and like I'm just going to keep moving on, you know what I mean? Like, I'd always prefer to do that, but yeah, I don't know.
Is there any other type of art block you ever run into? Like personally. And
I mean, when I was doing a comic in high school, I was just writing a comic just by the seat of my pants, just every. And there were people in my high school who like wanted to read it. Like my art teacher wanted to read it. There were some friends that were reading it and stuff, and like they would be asking me about new pages, and like I would just be like, "Fuck, I don't know where I wanted this to go. I didn't think I'd keep going past the 8 pages I did initially. Like, and I just kept doing it because like people seemed interested, and like and then I was just like, oh fuck, like this is bad. And I just hit at some point I hit like a block, and like it's almost like the equivalent of like web comic just like posting, and all of a sudden like no updates for a year, and people are like, where are you? But except that they could actually get to me and be like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And I'm like, oh, I'm working on all that stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of a block. That was more of like a writing block than a drawing one. But it's because I didn't plan on any story. I just started I just drew and wrote at the same time.
Well, that's a good block actually, is structure, right? Like even for a drawing, like you sit down and you're like, all right, I want to do this amazing piece, and you start to just like paint out, but you didn't draw the structure down first, and then like you're halfway through and you're like, oh, it's all broken.
Yeah.
Like that's it. What am I supposed to do? I didn't plan out step 1. I went straight to step 2, missed step 4, and now I'm on step 6. And I'm like, fuck, god damn it.
Yes.
Like, not planning out a creative project properly. And I've had that with a comic book. Like, I started drawing my own comic book for a while last year or the year before. And I've dropped it ever since because, like, I painted the first 4 pages, and it came out perfectly. And I'm like, these 4 pages are amazing. But all I'd been thinking about was those 4 pages. I was like... I panel by paneled out 4 pages and then didn't think about
nothing else.
Yeah, and then I realized that the only rest of the story I thought about was like arcs that were happening after like a huge chunk of the story had passed.
Like you were like, okay, so Raditz lands, and then he's Goku's brother, and then he fights Frieza. Like that's what in your mind was like if you jumped.
Kind of, basically, and they literally started with like this whole opening sequence of like all these shots of the character in shadow while he was running through, because it was like this like Beastman character who was like this mystic like shaman for a beast tribe. It was like kind of the story, and he's a kid and he's like running through the Sahara desert savannah like grasslands, and he's like running through all this grass. And he's always a silhouette, and then each panel revealed a different like portion of him, and then eventually one big panel to reveal the whole character.
Yeah.
And then he jumps into his town and goes and sees his dad. That was the whole opening, and I drew it all perfectly. I was like, wow, this looks fucking great. And then in my head, I have the story. I know what the story was. It's like his dad's supposed to die, and he's supposed to meet this guy, and he's supposed to run off, and then like start. But then I just had planned out the story of when he got to the first town, which is like way after his dad died, after the character like. Basically, all the major plot points. You want to
jump over the character development and
all of
it, and sweet stuff?
Yeah, just get to the story of him, like, hunting a thief in a town. And I'm just like, I don't have any panels. That was it. It was gone. I literally did. Just Raditz landed and then spot Frieza.
Yeah, so that's a piece of advice just in general. Always plan out. When I was a kid, I was a fucking idiot. I hated the art books that would be like, start off by drawing a circle, and then you start building the slow. I
just want to draw all the details and pretty first.
Yeah, I was like, no, fuck that. And I would always just start drawing the end thing.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
One perfect shot, and you really at the end you just have like a character that's like slightly skewed.
To the right. You sloped a little bit always because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And I would skip it. But like huge lesson, just you need to plan things out.
Yeah.
You need to rough things out. You need to get like perspective down and fucking. Just the composition, like, of what it's going to be.
That's a good way.
And the same thing for a story, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good thing to end it. So, like, for ways to break art block, the best one I've always still to this date found, even if I have no ideas, is to rough shit out. So my favorite thing for doing for characters, if I've got, like, a character idea in my head, but I just really can't get it out and I'm blocked, I'll do, like, figure drawings, like, and I don't mean, like, the rough, quick figure drawings. I mean, like, the actual, like, draw the sphere, draw the head of... I'll look up anatomy studies, light drawing figures. Ballerinas are big ones because they got lots of extension.
Ballerinas are fun.
Yeah, and or like martial arts stuff, Shaolin monks and all that. And I'll get their poses down in just those really rough, like doing the cylinder for the arm and doing the cylinder for the hand, etc., for the whole body, and get some awesome pose out. And then when I see it drawn out and I've drawn it a little bit more elasticy, I'm like, oh, that pose perfect, and I could totally see a character fit to that pose, and I'm like, and then I'm good to go. So like the roughing and the initial stage planning and the planning portion, like you said, like doing that can sometimes break you out of it. And if at the very least, if you don't break out of it, by the end you've done something productive with your day, like you've learned something. Yeah,
and I would say the thing I still do is go open some old PSD that you have saved. be like, what the fuck was I thinking here? And then just try to flesh out that idea more, because it's already done for you, and you can just apply the skills you already know to it. And then, again, that always just kind of gets my engine going a little bit. I'm like, and then I always abandon it. It always just, again, I just resave it, send it back, and start anew again once I've finally gotten my, like, creative juices flowing type thing. I recommend that. You know, that's my thing.
Do you have any others that you normally do? I mean...
That's my biggest one. Powering through shit, like, people always say that you gotta power through shit, but it's hard. It's hard, you know?
Yeah.
I would also say, like, just go fucking draw your favorite character. Go draw a MODOK. I didn't know what to do. I drew MODOK. I was like, hey, I'll draw a MODOK. I'll draw a fake Marvel cover. It's MODOK.
I like, for me, it's copying stuff. That, like, stuff I've never showed to the world, but just learning that I can mimic someone else's work to a T perfection.
Oh, like taking like a Jim Lee Batman cover or something and being like...
And just, like, literally getting it down exactly as I see it. And, like, seeing that I can literally replicate, like, almost like a machine, what they do. I'm like, oh shit, I have to know what I'm doing if I can literally look at every stroke and be like, okay, he pushed harder here, so I got that thin to thick right at that point. Looking at it at the end after I completely mimic something, I'm like, oh shit, I can totally do that. And a good way of doing that as well, where you're not copying another artist, is maybe doing painter portraits of friends. So a big one I like to do is some of my friends are hardcore in the cosplay, so I just paint them as their characters, and then like repaint them, and then I warp them a bit, and then someday they turn into an original piece maybe, or they're not. But like I've replicated what looks like my friend Jody as Savage Opress perfectly, you know. And I'm like, hey,
what was that character?
Savage Opress. He's a Star Wars character.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Trek.
Darth Maul's brother.
Oh,
yeah, fascinating.
One last thing. That has nothing to do with art block. I just want to see what you think of it because it just spurred in my memory. I knew a person, not going to name any names.
Cheese Toast?
No, not Cheese Toast. I would name his name. He's Cheese Toast. Good. And they.
If you have art block, please draw fan art of Cheese Toast Kid.
Please do. This person, fucking, they were going to an art show. They got invited to it. They were like a pretty decent artist. And for the art show, they did a Batman piece, which is fine. Like, it's cool. Whatever, do a Batman piece. But then later on, I realized that like it was literally the first image, like when you Google Batman, and it was just like you know, worst version of Jim Lee's Batman. And I was like, you put this in a show? Like, why? Like, and the show was like everyone else was like basically doing original pieces. There might have been some other fan art there, like I'm not sure. But I was just like, that's kind of like shameless. Like, why did you do that? Like, I didn't ever confront them about it, but I always thought it was like, this was your time to like shine off your creativity and like your own thing, and like you just drew Batman that someone else did. It wasn't even your own take on him or anything. Like, it was just, here's a poorer version of something that already exists. That's all it was. Like, why do that? What do you think of that?
Well, I mean,
imagine I came to this art show and I just copied official Pokemon art, but like worse. You'd be like, don't come to my table. We're not podcasting together anymore. And you'd light me on fire. Like, that's...
I am totally against it, like, honestly. The only thing is I'm guilty of almost the exact same thing.
Oh, you told a story on another one. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so...
Okay, but how old were you?
15?
Okay, this person was... I want to say 23, 24.
Oh, okay. That's different.
Around that age, yeah. It wasn't like a teenager mistake and, I plagiarized something. It was like...
I also have to admit, I had no intention of my piece at the time. Really, really quick synopsis of it was we were doing intaglio prints, which are like where you carve out in plastic, and then you can rub ink into it and then use it through a print to print multiple copies of it. A literal rip-off of the Fathom #1 by Michael Turner cover, and it was Aspen's face, but instead I made her have a tear, which was like, it was just her face, and then I added a tear. And
creative license.
Yeah, like, and I did that for an art school project. It was an easy way to get through, and no one was gonna fucking know what Fathom #1 was at my school. So I was like, all right, whatever. And then she thought it was so great, she tossed it into the show, and then I ended up selling it. So I was like, okay, great. And then someone kept paying me for more prints from the same intaglio print. So I was like, yeah, so like. A little bit different.
That's different.
It's a little bit different. And I was 15.
That's different from being, mid-20s, invited to an art show, and then...
But I'm against it, because, like, when you go, and even Jeff Isherwood, who we will have interviewed on the show soon, like he said, he's gone to cons, and he'll have a booth at Artist Alley, and there'll be other artists on there who have just straight-up copies of work, and they're selling stuff at a booth in Artist Alley. They get pissed at the con and ask them to remove them, and start having panels to remove people who use just fan art for Artist Alley,
Mm-hmm.
which I have to agree with because I've been through Artist Alley and they're charging $20 for a button that's maybe a different version.
I've seen on YouTube maybe some art plagiarist thing where people were going to booths and they were like literally selling like big artist names, but it was like edited in Photoshop to be like a slightly different color. Like they just Control U and like opened up the tab and just like slightly altered the color, and it was like that's just a Harley Quinn from a DC comic. That's like
those ones are really bad. But even the whole panel with this and even discussion with Jeff was the things from the fan artists that were working there was that their fan art was. While original pieces, it was still just Harley Quinn, and they shouldn't be selling someone else's work in that context because people were making full livings off of doing that. I'm a little bit more torn on it myself. Like if you've done a 100% original, like Archie style Harley Quinn, and, and you put that on a T-shirt, is that bad?
I think that's fine. It's just a pop culture mashup, you know?
And I mean, if you're making like $32,000 a year and that's your living off of selling these T-shirts or something, like, okay, whatever. I don't think it really matters.
I mean, there are people out there doing the fucking, like, it's the breath of the Force, and it's like Link, and he has a lightsaber, because it's like the Force, it's Star Wars and Zelda. Good job.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's an interesting twist. I don't know which one I approve of more than the other, but, you know. In the case of just straight up, plagiarism, fuck those people. Yeah,
just weird. Just a weird move that I always thought is like, I wonder if
Did he defend it as his own piece?
I don't know. Again, I don't think they ever got in trouble for it. They never got called out.
No, but when you called him out on it.
I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't say anything. I never confronted them. Like, I was just like, okay, like, I just watched your life happen. You know, like, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to call them out, because again, I wasn't sure if they thought they were being sneaky and like, but again, it was like kind of like a fairly, like, I don't want to say like iconic Batman piece, but it was like, I think a fairly well known cover. Like, I was just, again, baffled by it. And like, why would you just squander the opportunity and do that? You know what I mean?
Well, I've had it too where...
or you got nervous and you just like had to copy something else because you didn't think you'd have something good enough in time, I guess, but like...
Yeah, I mean, it's even in the reference side of things, though, right? Like where you draw something and you're afraid it's too close to your reference.
Sure,
like, someone's going to know what fucking life drawing model I copied that from. Like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
No, the worst cases of that are like when I see people who have stolen whole panels out of comics, like whole pages, and like they just like literally retraced it, and instead of it being X character, it's like it's the Thing now or something. You're like, okay, you're just fucking... That was just complete laziness.
Well, that was this thing in Marvel and DC for a while. They had to fire a bunch of artists for doing that. They were all just copying other panels and putting them out as new issues.
I don't know if that's like a lazy thing. I don't know if that's because time crunch. Maybe a little bit of both. Like, who knows?
Even just, like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, like, sitting there and you're like, I've drawn 200 panels this week. Fuck you, Marvel.
I don't want to draw the Thing anymore.
Yeah.
No one likes the Thing. And I think that'll close out the Pens and Pixels podcast for this week.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed our little art block talk.
Art block, cock block.
Cock knock the art block talk. If you want to find me, I am on Twitter at @TheCalG. Mike is at Mike Kent Draws. Pens and Pixels across all social medias. Pick your poison.
And of course, you can drop us a like and a share and a subscribe on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, all of those fine portals that we use. They really do help. And drop us a comment on any one of them. Ask us questions. You know, just say hey. We look forward to hearing from you guys. We like participation. And other than that, we're out. And we'll see you guys either at CGX if you're in town, or we'll see you next week.
Yeah.